To kind of start off, we did a earlier this summer, or actually at the start of the spring, Trent and I went to Pennsylvania and spent some time with John Allen and a bunch of other snow industry professionals and insurance and all kinds of stuff. So we went there, we realized that there was a lot of things that we weren't doing that on the East Coast is pretty standard as far as being able to protect against liability. I should say not protect against liability, but to protect companies from liability issues in snow removal. Some of the things that we need to do and some of the things that are changing in the industry is the liability that's associated with it. And so a lot of this is coming from some of the issues that we have liability-wise in the industry. And then there's also just a lot of pressure that we have from our clients to show them what it is that we're doing. To start off, really everything is governed by our contracts with the client. They tell us what they want, and we try to figure out what all of those things mean, and we try to measure out, if you will, their expectations. You know, what are their expectations as far as the snow removal on their site? They give us a set of specifications, and they say, here's what we want, and then from that, we got to figure out, okay, we know what our industry thinks some of those terms mean, but sometimes our clients have different ideas of what terms are. So that's where you're seeing some of the terms that are come into the industry. CIMA's come out with their document of terms and definitions, their glossary of terms and definitions. So we can measure their expectation, but we also need to measure our understanding and make sure that our understanding aligns with that expectation, so that we're on site, we're giving them exactly what it is that they're buying. It's all documented through all of our documentation, through our contracts with them, through the specifications. That's what they've asked for, so then we can show that we've done it. So it really comes down to really making sure that we're coordinating together and aligning ourselves with them and what they want. So as far as this training, we're going to assume we have lots of different clients, and so we have some clients that have various things that they want. We're going to assume that as we go through these next scenarios, that the parking lot trigger is 2 inches, sidewalks are 0 tolerance. We're going to assume that hours of operation is 24 hours, and that there is no accumulation threshold. So an accumulation threshold, we do have one client where they say trigger is 1 inch, and they don't want it to accumulate more than 2. So if it's snowing, man, we're there, boom, boom. That's their expectation. They want us there all the time. I don't think we have any of those in this area though. So, sorry. Some of you might have been like, ooh, that's a good contract. So, some of them are pretty good. We do have some of that's what we want. We have some that are 0 tolerance everywhere, including the parking lot. But for these scenarios, we'll do this. It's kind of hard to do everything for everything. So, and then as far as real-time reporting, that's just a given. Every single one of our clients wants to see what's going on when it's happening. So we're asking you to use that app, and we're asking you to do some things there to make sure that when you're out on site and you're reporting what's happening, that we're getting that information, we can forward it to our clients. Our clients do have logins to our system to see what's happening on the site as it's happening. So it's really cool when you guys are on site and you actually log something in and go to the next site. Our client can go in 2 minutes later and it's there. They can see that service has happened. So that's one of the things that our clients really want. We'll go ahead and jump into the first scenario here. So, and this is kind of how they're going to present. It's just going to be some general kind of made up information here. So basically, this is current conditions. So you show up on site, it's 9:30 at night, it's 34 degrees outside, and here's what it's projected to be the next night. Here's what it's projected to be the next day. Here's what you're measuring the surface temperature at and the surface conditions. So in this situation, what would you do? Is there any service that needs to be done there? In this situation, there's really no services there's no anti-icing that needs to be done because there's no precipitation that's on its way. We don't have any snow removal that needs to happen. There's no de-icing that needs to happen. There's just no moisture. The only thing that would change this is if the moisture changed, and let's say that you have that cold surface And the moisture then comes in and condensates on the surface because that surface is cold, so it draws all that moisture out of the air. And then you have a possibility of some frost on the surfaces, right? Might put some ice melt down there, but in this situation I wouldn't. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one. So on the next one, what do you guys see? What would you do? Yeah, we're getting close to that freezing. Is it going to be a de-icing or an anti-icing? Does everybody know the difference between what the industry is calling an anti-icing and a de-icing? Anti-icing is before an event. De-icing is after. So what kind of anti-icing? Yeah, you would do an anti-icing here. This is where you'd put it into the app and you'd say, yeah, I'm doing an anti-icing. And that's one of the changes that's coming in the app that you're going to see. And so that's what you would do there. You would just do a regular anti-icing. There's no real need for... There is a possibility here, so we do have some precipitation that's coming in. We do have some low temperatures that are going to hit in the night, which may drive that temperature down. So there are some things that you would do. So anti-icing, no snow removal unless you get precipitation and possible snow. So, okay, good. So now this next one, it's 6:30 in the morning, it's 28 degrees outside. It's projected to be 26 tonight. We have a 6-inch storm that they're forecasting at 80% chance. They're saying, yeah, it's going to snow today. So what would you do here? Hasn't started snowing yet, but it's going to. What are you going to do?
Call the people to be ready.
Call your guys, yeah. First of all, you're going to be ready. And then if you haven't done the anti-icing, you're going to do the anti-icing service to get that ice melt down, make sure that we don't have that bond of the snow and ice to the surfaces. And then at 6 inches, or a 2-inch trigger, what are you going to do? And when the snow starts to come?
Plows out there.
Get the plows out there and you're going to start plowing every 2 inches. Go to it and start plowing it off every 2 inches. That's our trigger. We want to keep the site safe. It's going to be during the day, so we want to make sure that we're out there on a regular basis. On the ones that is a 1-inch trigger, on one of our other contracts where we have a 1-inch trigger and a no more than 2-inch accumulation, man, your cycle times are quick and you're there every inch, right? So that's, yeah, this one here, you're going to do that. And then when the storm is done, what are you going to do? De-ice. You're going to throw some more de-icer out. So the rule of thumb on anti-icing and de-icing is you do the anti-icing before the storm, make sure that you don't get that bond to the surface so that when you come in with your plows, it just plows everything off nice and easy. And then when you're done, you're going to have loss of de-icer chemical that you put down during that anti-icing. But you can plow 3 times and not have to put any more de-icer out. And then when you're done plowing everything off and the storm stopped, you're going to put down a regular de-icing. Anti-icings are usually about 1/3 of the material. Rule of thumb is about 1/3 of the material of what a de-icing is. Of course, it depends on the site conditions that you're at. If you've got a lot of moisture there that you've got to deal with that's going to freeze, then that's going to change how much material you put down, because the material will be too diluted if you put too little down, and if you put too much down, then it can cause other problems. But so if you got a lot of moisture down, you need to note that, and that's something that you would probably put in your comments.
So, I mean, this is our first year doing the anti-icing.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying that typically it would be 1/3 of what a de-icing would be, but if there's more moisture, say, I mean, like the ground's really wet, I mean, we're talking more like half or like 2/3 or like
well, actually, the cool thing is that one of the changes that we've made in the app this year is that we've made it so that it calculates out what these are based on the square footage of the site. So when you start that app, there's an extra step, and there's a video that you guys are going to get here soon that will go over the changes in the app. But you'll start your service like you normally did, pick the site and time and say start, and then it's going to go to another screen and it's going to say, are you doing an anti-icing, a de-icing, or none? So those are the 3 options. If you're there to do a final snow plow and then put down ice melt, you're going to choose the de-icing. If you're there just to plow off or shovel snow, then you're not going to do anything. You hit the none. If you're there to do an anti-icing, you just select the anti-icing. And then when you put in the surface temperature, the app is going to spit out some calculations. It's got 3 different numbers that it's going to give you based on each surface. So it's going to tell you what you should use, or I shouldn't say that, what's calculated for that surface, as far as here's the square footage of the surface. If there was a nice thin layer of water across the entire surface, here's how much ice melt you should put down in a de-icing event, and how much you should put down in an anti-icing event. So it'll tell you how many, and it'll come out with things like 66.53 pounds. We don't expect you to put 66.53 pounds down. We expect you to go, oh, okay, about 65 pounds, I'll throw 65 pounds down. You just throw about that much down. We don't expect you to break out a scale and measure things out. It's just, what does it take to get there? And you should know about what your equipment is putting out anyway, as far as how much ice melt it's going to lay down on the ground. So you're just going to kind of use those numbers that are calculated, and those numbers that are calculated that's just what they are. It's a calculated amount. It's not a required amount, it's a calculated amount.
So is this also for sidewalks as well as the parking lot?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. You'll see them on there, and when you get the video, take a look at the video. If you have questions on it, please contact me, or contact Marco or Trent or Steven. Yeah.
On average, how long does de-icer and anti-ice last?
So that's a good question. It's lasted, there's been anti-icings that were done that have lasted up to 6 days, where they've, you've evaporated off the moisture, the de-icer gets left there, and then moisture comes in again, and it kind of goes through that cycle several times. But it's all dependent on how much moisture you get and how much runoff you have of that moisture. So if it's raining heavily, it's going to dilute that de-icer out quite a bit. So if you've got some times where it's just freezing and thawing every day with no added moisture or no added runoff from a neighbor's site or whatever, you can probably skip a few de-icings or anti-icings because the material is still there. Sometimes it's hard to tell, and so it's really up to, they have systems that you can go out and measure how much de-icing material is on the ground, but that's not what we're expecting. It's basically, you're on site, you're the professional, it's looking at it and saying, you know what, I think I'm okay here, or nope, I need to throw down another application. We've got a lot of moisture coming from next door that's running through the site and just carrying a lot of it away. It's not going to carry all of it, but there is going to be some runoff. But the biggest problem is that dilution of the material and then running off the surface into landscaping or whatever else. So, and then this last scenario, here's what it is. So you've got ice on the ground and it's just cold. It's just cold. What would you do? De-icer? Absolutely. And this is a full de-icing event. This isn't an anti-ice because we've already got ice on the ground. We've got to control it. So it's a de-icing event. That's what we're going to do. There's no snow to be removed, but who knows what we have coming into the site, whether it's moisture or whatever. But we've got really cold temperatures, and it's going to freeze. So we need to make sure that we manage that. So that's pretty much it for the scenarios. There's so many different things that happen out there that make things different. The idea is to use the properties that we know about de-icer and how it works to manage our sites more efficiently and to show our client that, hey, this is what's happening on the site. This is what we